Hey, this is Tom Calvin. Thanks for tuning in to Tomorrow's Legends.
During a trip through time, the Legends were forced to land the Waverider in Blue Valley, Nebraska, where they discovered a young superhero.
Yes.
About to take flight.
That's cool.
Who are you?
I'm Stargirl.
Welcome back to It's Suddenly Sunny again in Blue Valley, where we take in our enemies and eat giant cheeseburgers, and I'm thinking that's the perfect town for me with my energy consumption, The Flash.
And I'm hoping Eclipso didn't infect my ring. I'm X-Force 11.
And now, here are your hosts, the Scarlet Speedster himself, The Flash, the Maid of Mischief Harley Quinn, and the Blue Beacon of Hope, X-Force 11.
Hello, Legends.
Hey, Gideon. Yeah, I kind of hope so too there, X-Force. If you're infected, I'm getting out of here. That would be a little bit freaky. I mean, it looks uncomfortable too. Holy.
Yeah, I know.
Alrighty, well, let's get into our show. We're going to start off with some of this.
Letters lost in the timeline.
Who got lost in the Waverider timeline? Let's find out.
Hey, Cosmic Crew. Dreamweaver here, dropping in with a few thoughts on Stargirl Season 2, Episode 11. Just catching up on sending in some feedback here. I really love this past episode, Episode 11, giving it 9 shades of black and white out of 10. It wasn't perfect, but it was really interesting and a well-done episode. The opening scene of Pat and Jennie coming back to the house without Courtney was well done, and all the more heartbreaking knowing how Courtney Whitmore as a character came to be, and Jeff Johns' family having to go through something similar with his real-life sister not coming home one day. Even though we know this Courtney isn't dead, it sets the solemn and eerie tone for most of the episode. The first scene with Courtney waking up in the Shadowlands, up until she opened the door to the diner, not only had a creepier, more droning theme behind it, but it was also lacking all atmospheric sound effects. Not even footsteps. Made it really off-putting. The monochromatic scheme of the Shadowlands made it not only visually interesting and differentiating from the real world, but it also connected to Cindy's black and white monologue to Courtney, how all she sees is things in black and white, where things are more gray. It was a nice surprise seeing the Zarek's back and tying in Courtney's guilt to that, and it was really interesting to see the vision of Barbara blaming Courtney for her life, that of Courtney's fear, and it also being on the Christmas Eve her dad never showed up way back in the pilot. Eclipso even bringing her locket back up, too. I would really like to see Courtney acknowledging her trauma more in the future after this experience. Flesh her out, deepen her character a little more. Especially with Eclipso getting her to admit to her darker, more hateful side. I love seeing Dr. McNider in the Shadowlands aiding Courtney, and I love that he's now back out in the real world. Jeff, looks like you might be getting a little bit of your wish of some of the older members being mentors. I thought it was really curious that he had to close his eyes in the Shadowlands, since he's blind. But if they're pulling from the comics, he can actually see in the dark, not in the light, which is why he needs the goggles. So if that's the case, and the Shadowlands is just that pure shadow darkness, he probably has heightened vision in there. So not good for him. I also loved his story about the Shade and the shared remorse and commonalities, and how the Shade kind of felt really bad that he left Dr. McNider in there not knowing he was alive. The only part I didn't like about the Shadowlands was the one shot of Cindy getting dragged off by the drones into the abyss from her bedroom. That abyss looked like an unfinished render. You could straight up see the edges of the mask. That threw me off and knocked a few points off. But the Lantern Construct map made up for that, because that was awesome. As did Shade opening up the doorway to the Shadowlands through a movie screen. That was a really cool way of portraying it. I also like the picture of Dorian Gray nod, as that movie's about someone with immortality who sees his adverse effect on others as he continues to grow old while others don't. I do not particularly think he's dead, especially since he was seen in 2 locations according to the map. Could just be my wishful thinking because he's such a good character, but I'm still holding out hope he's not dead. Anyway, there's only 2 episodes left. 1, I guess, by the time I get this feedback in, so I'm afraid they're going to rush the end again, but I guess we'll see. Hope the season isn't left all tied up in a neat bow, because that just would not be fitting to the season as a whole. Alright, that's all for now. Till next time, your Fran Dreamweaver.
I am so with her on that very last point. Do not
Indeed.
tie this up in a very neat bow, and we're
Yeah.
going to talk about that after this episode too.
Yeah. Yes, indeed.
Awesome
Great
stuff.
feedback.
Yeah, she just wasn't able to get it in last week, so she's catching us up. But I believe we get to hear from her again at the end of this episode.
Mm-hmm.
All right, how about some ratings for this penultimate, second last episode?
I gave this one 9 powerful penultimate pushes to the dark side.
Ooh, yeah.
I appreciate that this ep was character driven, and we've spent the season dealing with the division Eclipso has caused, and now it's all hitting home. And I like the honest discussions we had, and I like the stage it sets for the finale. And I agree. I hope we're not going to rush what's going on, but I liked what they did in this episode.
Yeah, exactly. I totally feel what you're saying there. I'm just underneath you. I give it an 8.5, best setup episode ever. Really, when you step back and think about it, really absolutely nothing happened this episode. But you know what? It snuck in heaps of tension, tons of look-over-your-shoulder vibes, and a good dose of finally some people listening and putting their crap aside and realizing the situation at hand. And we also got some Dr. McNider as a full-on character here to help the team, and a wonderfully wicked turn by Pat in the hospital, and that dream sequence finish of a cliffhanger. Man, now that is good setup indeed.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Meanwhile, at the Hall of Justice.
So let's kick it off. And this episode was really hard to kind of break down because it was, I basically had to do it by characters. But so we're going to start off with Pat. And I really like that Pat is trying to introduce Chuck to this new world that he's been missing out on. But he's also listening to him as a trusted friend.
Yeah, and I think it's probably just good for Pat to see an old friend that's still alive. I mean, that you could see how happy he was that actually happened, that he realized, what? McNider's still alive, and now that they got to spend some time together, I think Pat finally has somebody on his level, like same age, who's been through all the history with him, knows what's come before, and now he's got someone to talk to and relate to. Because as much as the kids want to listen to him, nobody has the experience. Nobody shared that experience with him. So he actually has really been kind of alone and not really able to relate to anybody. So I like this for Pat a lot.
Yeah, me too. I appreciate that he's got somebody who he looked up to, who was older than him, and who he learned from, and now he is getting to do that again. But you can tell he is unsure about Cosmo and Courtney and Jennie's abilities and the JSA's readiness to really face Eclipso. But Chuck's got that confidence in Beth that kind of balances that out. So, it's kind of, he's unsure, Chuck is a little more sure, so they're balancing each other out.
Well, it's like we've been saying. I believe he has every right to be worried that they aren't ready. I mean, without a doubt, we know that they can't handle Eclipso, and it's going to take some damn miracle writing to make me believe that they can. So I'm okay with Pat worrying about it still. It's granted. He knows what's happened before.
Right, I agree. And Charles just has that one point of view with Beth and the little that he's talked with Courtney. So, yeah, I agree with him. And, I appreciate this because Pat is realizing what he's going to need to do to try to help this team to come together, and he's going to be the one who steps up, and he goes and talks to Rick's uncle Matt to try to get Rick out of jail. And this scene was really powerful. I loved how Pat took one tack of trying to appeal to Matt, who cares for, as somebody who's supposed to care for Rick. I liked that, how he started it and how he couched that when he first came in.
Yeah, that whole scene was great. I mean, Pat stepped up this episode being the one parent. Well, I mean, not the only parent, but the one that cares for these kids and is willing to stand by their side through all of this mess. And I just think he really, this episode, because he's been a little bit background character a couple times this season.
Right.
This one brought him back to the forefront again, and in a sense, kind of leading the team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. And, it was just, you hear that compassion, you hear that appeal, and you know that he's speaking out of his heart there because he's come to appreciate Rick and care for him. And he's hoping to see that in Matt, but he sees that fail, and Pat immediately changes his tack and calls Matt out as the bully he really is. And we are really led to believe that Pat forces Matt to drop the charges. And that was just eye-opening, just to like, you're like, what, Pat?
Yeah. Funny thing is it didn't surprise me, really, for some reason. I kind of knew the entire time during that whole scene that the uncle was going to continue to be an a-hole. I just knew it. I knew Pat was not going to turn him around with talking to him. He just had that vibe to him, that type of personality. There's people like that will never change, no matter, nothing will appeal to them. There's just some people in this world that aren't good people, and nothing will change that. And I just got that feeling from this uncle character that that's who he is, and it didn't matter what Pat said. But what I did love is I love Pat putting on the military scare tactics, because who knows what they did to him in the Army. We have no idea what Pat experienced. And this is the first time, and we've never heard Pat speak of his Army days before. That's the first time it's ever been mentioned, I think.
Well, so it wasn't actually Pat that was in the Army. It was his dad.
Right, okay.
Right, and he picked up a lot of things from his dad, and, working around his dad. I believe his dad worked on tanks, and that's where he kind of got his love of being a mechanic. Ooh. So it was him being really, a military brat and moving all over and having to, deal with, who's the biggest bully on the block when he comes onto a new base and things like that. So it wasn't really him in the military, but it was his dad. But it still applies because he had to learn, how to stand up and make a stand for himself.
Yeah, and I love the little dark edge that it brought to Pat. I mean, we've seen him as the caring, doting, kind guy that he is. So for him to have this dark edge just come out, oh man, I loved it.
Yeah, I really hope that we can find some type of balance with him where he is more assertive in a caring way, not he's not, going fully dark over here, but he's not letting himself being stepped on, but he can try to find some balance of, here's my experience, I'm going to set, affirm, and maybe he needs somebody to come alongside of him and encourage him, and maybe that will be Chuck, but we'll see.
Yeah, exactly.
So at the end of the episode, we see, back at the pit stop, Rick's poring over his dad's notes. Zeke, which I confirmed by looking at IMDb, is working on Stripe, and maybe he is working on that chainsaw. But the look that Pat gives, it looks like he is regretting what he had to do, or maybe he's just apprehensive about what's coming next. But that look was just so powerful. It was quick scene, but it was powerful.
Yeah, I wonder how they have saved that much of the sand from the hourglass, actually, because it got spilt all over the dirt in the how do you separate the sand from the dirt in the road? I know it's
and some of it blew away
exactly, and people walking on it or kicking it I know it's yellow sand, but I don't know. Obviously, we're really nitpicking there, but there's no glass. So how is Rick going to fix it? Because it's not like he can just go do some glass blowing and make a new hourglass. But here's my thing. I have a feeling that all that early season stuff about how Rick is smarter than everyone gives him credit for, those scenes with the teacher and him acing his classes and stuff, I think that's going to come into play here. And he's going to devise a new way to make his powers work and carry on his dad's inventor ways and creativity by coming up with something newer and better and allowing his powers to be accessed, like I said, in a better way. Whether it's another hourglass, maybe he comes up with something different. But I have a feeling all that stuff about Rick being smart is going to come full circle here.
Right, and, we got that last season, too, where he was the only one that could really decipher his dad's notes. And, I think it will be interesting. The JSA comic that I recommended a couple episodes ago does not deal with Rick as Hourman. It deals with a Hourman type robot android from the future that has multiple abilities, and so maybe they can bring in, he's going to kind of do an upgrade, and I don't know, but we'll see. But that would be hopeful.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd want to see robotics or anything like that.
I don't want to see that, but I'd like to see more than just strength, is what I'm saying.
Oh, more ability than just strength. Okay.
Yeah, because that version has more than just strength as its abilities and powers.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. I mean, he's called Hourman, so I guess they could give him other abilities that still only last an hour.
Yeah.
I don't know. But talking about Stripe now, are we going to get some Stripe action with the flamethrower, driller killer arms, and the chainsaw thing in the finale? I mean, are they setting us up for that? Because he sure looked shiny, brand new in that little clip we got of him. So, I mean, it is going to be really cool if we do see him. They're setting us up for that. But I have to ask again, what is he going to fight? There's no real opponent for him. Right?
Yeah.
Like Eclipso is just a creature of darkness. There's just nothing for Stripe to swing at or slice a chainsaw through or whatever. I just don't know. But it's still going to be really cool to see because I think Stripe is actually looking way better than he's ever looked. I'm quite excited to see him.
Yeah.
And, talking about that look, I don't know if regret is the word I go with. To me, it's a look of concern. And I'm wondering if that the concern is that he's pondering what's coming. Because like I said earlier, he's been there before, the days before the big battle. And I think he's just kind of walking through and he's thinking and he's pondering what's coming because he knows. And he knows how much trouble this is going to cause the team, that the team is young and they're not... He doesn't think they're prepared. I think just all of that is going through his head. I don't know if it's so much he's regretting it. I think he's just concerned.
Yeah. That very well could be. It was just, an interesting look and a concerned look, and what it boils down to, I don't know, but it was one of, he's very much considering what's going on. So, yeah. Good stuff. All right, so let's move on to Courtney. And honestly, and they should, Beth and Yolanda question Courtney's decision to have Cindy on the team as an ally. And, I totally agree with them there.
Well, I mean, from their perspective, of course they do, because they haven't seen or experienced what Courtney did in the Shadowlands with Cindy. So, and this is a little bit of, there's a lot of these little things that bother me about the show, and more so about Courtney. If she would just explain it to them, because it drives me bonkers when characters don't just simply give the details that would make everything okay and understood. But no, stupid TV shows have to stretch out the drama. If her friends are struggling with it, all she has to say is, look, this is what happened in the Shadowlands. This is why I trust her. 2-minute conversation, done. And so many times we see characters being questioned, and they've got the answer that would solve everything, and they just don't. And, oh, my God, that drives me crazy.
I know. Indeed. And, Courtney, she's trying to break through to Yolanda, but honestly, it's going to fail. Because Yolanda, the way Courtney comes at it, it's like, listen, you're not the only one that killed. Wildcat killed. That's no good because you're just tearing down, Yolanda's idol, and she just pushes Court and Wildcat away because now she's got her friend that she doesn't see eye to eye with, and she's got her hero that she doesn't see eye to eye with anymore. So,
I mean, Courtney doesn't think through anything. She just goes with her gut emotions. I mean, and like you said, that wasn't the best tact to go at Yolanda with, you know, quote unquote, oh, don't worry, it's okay, you're not the only one in that costume that's killed before, yay! Like she has this cheerleader like approach to things. You know, isn't it exciting? You're not the only one that's killed. Woo! Like, just Courtney, come on, think a little bit. She's really, really not good at. I just don't think she has any leadership skill at all. She is not a good leader for this team. She's the star of the show, but she doesn't have leadership qualities.
Yeah, I think, honestly, it's... She just wants to get through things easily, and she thinks what works for her would work for somebody else, and it's realizing that, you know, people are different, and you need to learn to communicate with different style, with people in different ways and different styles, and she really has to learn that in order to be a real leader. Because I mean, we saw that in the beginning of the season where she's on patrols and she wants everybody to feel the same way, and they're just like, okay, there's no threat here, and so it's just, I think she needs to learn, you know, really team dynamic and working with folks. You know, she's done gymnastics, and while that is a team, it's not the same as being on a sports team that you're on the same field at the same time and relying on, you know, each other. And so I think she needs to learn those things before she can be a better leader.
That's a good way to put it. Yep.
Yeah. So right before Courtney comes in the house, we hear this voice, and then we see a shadow behind Barb. Do we think it's the real Shade, or is it Eclipso playing tricks on Barb?
Well, now that was an interesting bit right there. Of course, it looked like Shade. There's the suit and the hat and everything, and the voice. But could Eclipso be toying with everybody again? And it just doesn't seem so to me, because it's super nice and sunny out again. And we know Eclipso only has power when it's shrouded in darkness. So if it is super sunny, nice weather day again, where's Eclipso? Where's his power coming from? Like, has he gone into hiding? That, you know, we can talk about that a little bit more. So I'm a little confused there. So I don't know if that was Eclipso, but how could it be Shade?
I don't know. You know, we pretty much settled that he died last episode. You know, I positive that he might be, you know, stuck in the Shadowlands, but you know, we kind of settled, well, no, they've already done that, but I don't know.
Yeah.
And I see, I don't even know if we get to see that played out this season. You know, it would be cool if we got another hint next episode, but no real confirmation, and then they continue it on next season. But we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
But that led into the conversation that Courtney and Barbara have in the kitchen, and it's my favorite scene, so we'll talk about it more there. But I think talking with her mom there will help her fight against the darkness inside of her, and what we're kind of seeing in some of the hints, because I think she took a step on confronting what she saw in the Shadowlands. So I don't know that punch by Eclipso will land as firm as it would if she didn't have that talk with her mom.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it. I mean, Courtney and Barbara haven't really been in communication with each other a lot over these first two seasons. So to start seeing Barbara be able to, you know, console her daughter, give her a little bit of advice, and give her a bit of that support, I think is definitely going to help her, of course.
Yeah. So closing out this section, Yolanda comes in, and we'll talk more about this in a little bit, but she comes in to confront Courtney about trusting Cindy. And she's only back on the team to protect her friends, but Courtney is happy to have her back, and I'm glad to at least have her part of the battle here.
Well, we've gone half the season without her. I told you it was going to be a while.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
I mean, at least Yolanda steps up here and comes to defend her friends. Even though she's mad at them, she still sees them as her friends and that they need her help, and she's not going to... I think she would feel even worse if she stood idly by and heard that they all got killed or something. So she has to step in. She has to be part of the fight because that would just tear her apart.
Right, and I love the kind of look that she gave when she took the Wildcat mask out of the box there.
She was smiling. She missed it.
I love it. So I'm going to get into Cindy next because this section was, I think, really left me asking a lot of questions and considering a lot of things. All through this episode, we see Cindy putting up what I think is a good bluff around Courtney and Yolanda. She makes them think that she hasn't changed and she's just going to cut and run once the battle's over. But I kind of think that's a little bit of a bluff.
Yeah, that's her act. She doesn't want to be seen as weak. But she also has a point. Being nice isn't going to save the day this time. You have to get dirty. You have to be willing to do things to win this battle. So she's just sort of putting on a show. Like, she doesn't want to be seen as weak, but she's also trying to drive home a point that niceness is not going to win the day this time.
Right. And I think her experiences in the Shadowlands and seeing her mom and being reminded of that, I think it's left her shaken. I think she has come out of the Shadowlands and she sees the relationship that Courtney and Barbara have. She sees the whole family dynamic of the Dugan-Whitmore clan, and I think she longs for that because she's never had it.
Yeah, I see where you're getting at there. I think she wishes that she had that growing up, but her whole life has been like that. You know, she's never known happiness and love or whatever. I mean, maybe a little bit with her mom when she was really young, but for most of her known life, it's been what she knows, the torture and the tragedy and the rough upbringing. You know, and she would never be able to settle into a Leave It to Beaver type family lifestyle, even though that's what she's witnessing with Courtney's family. I'm just not sure she longs to have that now, because she's very angry and a jealous type of person, and that's more what I saw. You know, she may wish she had that growing up, but I think it also disgusts her, because we always see her going, oh, you know, rolling her eyes and oh, you know, when she sees that happy. So I more would want to put her somewhere in the middle, that she sees that it's good. She sees that Courtney has that, but I don't know if she wants that now. I think she looks at it more of a, man, why didn't I get that growing up myself? That's not fair. I don't know if she would ask for that now and become part of some happy family.
I don't know if it would be feasible to think that she could get that now. It may be one of those things where it dwells in her, and she maybe gets to the point of, like, I'm going to make sure if I ever have a family that, you know, we're not going to have what I have. It may not be what the Dugan-Whitmore clan has, but it's going to be better than what I have. So maybe it'll plant that seed there. Because honestly, it's just she's too old to kind of, you know, to do that. But, you know, I like the fact that she sees Courtney strike out with Yolanda, and she knows that that's not going to work, and so she uses the tools in her toolbox. So she uses her presence and reverse psychology to push Yolanda to come back and protect her friends, and it works. And, you know, we've seen her use that for her own means, and she's still using it for her own means, but it was kind of cool to see her use that to kind of, push some of our team in the right direction.
Well, it was a sneaky move to help Courtney out. And the way I thought it was, I wonder if it's some kind of small payback for saving her in the Shadowlands, perhaps. It has to be. It's just, this is what Courtney, or what Cindy does. She's not going to go all out and buy Courtney a present and wrap it up nice and say, oh, thank you so much. She's not going to do that. That's not her. She's going to sneak around the back and get her payback without anybody really knowing. And then she doesn't have to pretend to be nice.
Right. Agreed. And, she's very smart, and she knows that this team, as it is going to need help. And so we see her calling for backup. And she says, you finally answered my call. And then she says, you all need to come back to Blue Valley. So, other than Artemis, who do you think she's talking about?
Did she really say you all?
Yes, I watched it. It says, because she said, you finally, answered my call or whatever, but then she says, you all, in closed captioning, at least both times I watched it, the first time it aired and then on my copy, it says you all. So,
okay, well, who else other than Artemis? There's nobody else that we've seen. Is there? Are we forgetting somebody?
I mean, it's not like she can... I mean, unless she's trying to get Artemis to get her mom and dad to break out of prison again to come back. But, I mean, like...
I just can't think of any, even the younger ones. They've either died or they're gone. Like,
yeah, I mean... It's... Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
You all better, because it would be weird to suddenly bring in brand new characters for the finale episode that are friends of Sydney's. I mean, I don't know. It'd be really weird. The timing would be way off to just suddenly throw new people in.
I don't know. That just threw me off. I'm like, unless she means Artemis's whole family, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. Strange. So, I guess we'll find out in a week.
Yeah. So she talks with Courtney, and she says that, kind of brings up the thing that we talked about last week about her, telling Courtney's just all black and white, and you need to, to have that darkness to fight against Eclipso. And I see her point, because that's her only way of reasoning with things, of like, the only way I've ever known is to embrace the darkness and to fight against this, and it's worked for me. But like, I don't think it's going to work for Courtney. But at least she's trying to help Courtney in a misguided way. But it's help.
Yeah, I think Sydney's just struggling to get her point across of what she's really meaning, because she's not really wrong. Like I was touching on a few moments ago, Courtney can't win by being nice. She has to toughen up and get in some cheap shots to win this battle. She's got to fight dirty, and I think that's what Cindy's trying to get across to her. But it's Cindy can't get that through to her like Courtney can't get through to Yolanda. Like they're all trying to figure out how to communicate with each other.
Yeah, I've got some questions about that, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, I just don't know. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know if that's the best tack, but we'll see. So, Chuck and Beth. And I really love this section because Beth, is out there on the scene, and she gets some good news that Courtney is back, and she gets to meet her mentor. And that was just so cool.
Okay. I'm going to admit that was almost cute. That was a pretty nice chemistry between McNider and Beth, and it was fun to watch them. They really did seem to vibe off each other, and the actors really seemed to play off each other really well. Yeah. So I was actually enjoying Beth's moments with him for a change. Yes.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to skip down because I think I love their debrief session and the syncing up of the goggles and you know that kind of process, you know, of to speed up the process of finding Eclipso. That was really cool.
Right. Yeah, they're, like I said, they're fun together. I will have to see what they come up with for tech and such, because he's the creative genius that has done all of this stuff, and Beth's just smart enough to know how to use it. So if they put their heads together, what are they going to come up with? That'll be fun.
Yeah, I think, you know, Charles, like I said, he's a man of a different time, and I enjoyed kind of getting to see him switch from his costume to a suit. Like he's more comfortable in a suit. You know, Pat says he's got comfortable clothing, but that's comfortable for him.
Yeah.
But what I really liked is that they are walking him out like he is in the comics. We see his eyes that are white, and we confirm that he is blind. He uses his goggles and costume, and when he's in his civilian clothes, he's got the glasses that kind of sync up with the goggles with the AI built into them. So I like that they're kind of bringing the comics in there.
Yeah, that suit he put on was funny. It was like an old brown suit. You never seen anyone wear brown suits like that except in the 70s, so it was kind of funny. But I'm curious here. He's blind, completely blind. So how can he see what the goggles are showing him? That's where I lost a little. I'm like, how? Because when we see Beth wear them, it's all on screen. Like she's wearing goggles that show her everything on screen. Well, if he's blind, he can't see that. So how is he able to see the same stuff that Beth sees when she wears the goggles?
Well, he is blind, but like Dreamweaver mentioned, he can see in the darkness. So there is some sight, some extra sensory there, and he's a physician by trade, and so he understands by how the body works. He's able to see in the darkness. Talking about tech, we haven't seen this yet really in this universe, but he uses blackout bombs, and he uses kind of some martial arts to gain advantage over the criminals. And in the comics, Beth is also blind. She's like her mom, is a surgeon. This is an adult version, and she also uses those blackout bombs and the martial arts training. And her vision, she sees multi-spectrum, so it's kind of like what Geordie LaForge would see or something like that. So there's still some vision, but just in a different way. So maybe he's designed the tech to cater to whatever the person wearing can see. I just don't know. I don't know.
Well, our Beth is definitely not a martial artist.
No. But it would be cool to see her use some blackout bombs.
That would be fun. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah. So they've teamed up and they've synced up their goggles, but they're having issues and they need some more computer power. And she's smart. Beth is going to go take them to the ISA mainframe. I'm like, didn't they disconnect that? It's still up and running, but it's evidently at the foundation. And this is a major scene where we get to see them confronted by Eclipso, and I really like this scene.
So we see that the goggles allow them to see Eclipso as he really is, and that's kind of a sneak peek at them not being fooled by his illusions. But still, how is that going to help in the fight? I'm confused how they are going to fight him. What's that going to look like? Because everybody else is going to be, fighting the illusions that he's putting onto them. How's the attack going to happen? What's the physical part of the fight going to look like? That's where I just cannot seem to piece this together, because it's not like he's going to stand there toe-to-toe and get into hand-to-hand combat with the entire team. There's going to be something else happening, and I'm just wondering, okay, so Beth and McKnight are going to be able to see through all of that, but are they going to be able to stop the entire team from being, from seeing what Eclipso is trying to get them to be fooled by? It's very confusing. I don't know how they're going to pull this off.
Well, here's my thoughts, and I said it earlier in this season. We got to see Beth project with her goggles when they had the fight in the cafeteria. So she was projecting out in the cafeteria. I think with the both of them, they're going to be able to kind of project out and blow through some of his smoke screens so that, you know, everybody can see, or if, like, the battle is split, one of them can project one way and one the other so that it kind of helps people break through. I think that's the good thing about them being synced and there being more than one set of goggles. Even if, you know, somebody is fighting, that there's still one set going. So that's kind of where I see is they're kind of projecting things out and cutting through what other people are seeing.
Okay, so if that happens, if they're able to project out the reality and nobody's fooled by the illusions, then Eclipso is just nothing but a Fraggle Rock elf. What is he going to do? How is he going to fight? Because we haven't seen that yet. All we've seen him do is grab the staff and drain its energy. Okay, well, if everybody's attacking him at the same time, is he going to be able to do those similar type of, you know, mystical attacks? I don't know. I'm really lost on what Eclipso can bring to the table when it comes down to a big fight.
Yeah, I think he's going to have to start using possession, and he's going to have to start using possession like we've seen them use in the past, and that will make it harder to break through the illusion when somebody is possessed. And so I think that may be a little bit, but I there's got to be some actual combat other than illusions and possession, but I just don't know how it's going to look either. So, well,
that's a very valid point to bring up, which is going to come all the way full circle when we get to the very end of this conversation. As we saw the closing shot of somebody being possessed, that's how you do it. If he can't fight himself, he's going to get other people to fight for him. So there you go.
Right, yeah. So let's move into the section on Jennie, because the dark energy on her map at the school was residue from the Shadowlands. And Jennie's firing at it, but some of it gets sucked up into the ring. And I missed that at first. When I first watched it. Yeah. And so I was like, what happened? And then, you know, when I was rewatching it, you could kind of see the energy come into the ring and how it hit her eyes as well. So that was an interesting point. I was like, oh, I didn't know that was a vulnerability. I don't know.
Well, yeah, what is it doing? Because I thought that was really interesting. The blob, she was busy blasting the blob with light, but it kind of jumps past, like it circumvents the light and jumps at the ring, and then crawls inside the mechanics of the ring. So, and then from there, it looks like it goes inside of her, I guess, once it gets under the ring. So I thought that was interesting that the light was not affecting it at all, because it circumvents it and jumps right up it into the ring. So I was like, interesting. What is that telling us? That Jade's light is not going to be any help or of any use in this fight?
I don't know. I think it's one of those things where no individual is going to be strong enough to defeat Eclipso on its own. It's going to take everybody, because I didn't have this in the notes, but in the talk between Pat and Chuck, Chuck talks about the light and people who possess the light and that hope within. I think Jennie is real unsure of herself, and she doesn't have that hope yet that she needs. And even Courtney is dealing with not having enough. And so, like I said, I think it's going to take a concerted effort from everybody in order to push him back. And I'm holding out hope, like I speculated a couple episodes, that they're going to push him back but not totally defeat him, so that, you know, he will come back in the future. But we'll see.
Yeah. No, I think you probably got a good point there. It's going to take everybody, and it's going to take, you know, certain people bringing something more out of themselves to... Yeah. I mean, Well, we're gonna find out. Hopefully, in this finale episode, we're gonna see what comes of it. But
yeah. So throughout this episode, we see Jennie getting weaker and Eclipso inhabiting her visions.
Yeah, and what is that stuff? I mean, was that a piece of Eclipso? That darkness, that glob, was it a part of the Shadowlands? Is it poisoning her slowly? Is it killing the light within her? What is it? Because it's obviously causing some, like a poison, the way it's making her struggle. Mm-hmm. She's in pain, and she's hallucinating. So are these visions like prophecies? Are they, hints of what's actually coming? Or are they just her fears and her concerns and her worries, by seeing what she sees? Are we to believe that's what is actually coming, or is that just a scary dream? Because she's sick on the inside. She's poisoned on the inside.
Right. I think, honestly, it's like a low level of what he's done before in possessing other people. Yeah. Because he's not taking direct action at first. It's like it's a piece of the Shadowlands, and then once it starts to get in her system, then he starts to try to work on her. And I mean, we see her nightmare there at the end of the JSA killed by an Eclipso-possessed Stargirl. I'm thinking that, I'm hoping that is just like what Eclipso wants her to see, but I mean, it may be prophecy. I just don't know.
Now that was the ending shot of all ending shots. I mean, a dark Courtney. What is that telling us? Will Courtney fall to the darkness and be taken over and attack her own team? Will Jade be helping her also by getting taken over by darkness? Because she's struggling to deal with it right now. She got the goo inside of her. Does that mean that we'll get what we are hoping for, and that is a dark cliffhanger of a season finale where the bad guys win and not a quick finish to an unsatisfying end, as Dreamweaver hinted at? Because think about it. If we see Courtney go dark and attack her team, there's no way that in 42 minutes they're going to be able to show us that happening and then somehow turn it around and defeat Eclipso and wrap it all up by the end. There's just no way they can squeeze that into 42 minutes, because if they do, it's going to feel exactly like the season 1 finale, way too easy, way too fast. So it better be well done, and they better not pull that icicle shatter moment on us. Like, what are they going to do? Shine 25,000 beams of light on Eclipso? Poof, he's gone. Hey, we win. Like, this is what I'm saying. If Courtney goes dark and she ends up fighting her own team and ends up somewhat defeating them and she disappears into the dark side, that would be a monumental cliffhanger of a season finale, and that we have to wait to see what happens, what comes of it for. Right? Like,
yeah, I would really like that. And, there's no risk in doing something like that, because they're filming a season 3. Yeah. They knew that there were going to be a season 3 before they started filming season 2. So there's no let's leave a cliffhanger here. I think it would be very cool. Yeah. And it would be very brave of them. I'm hoping that they're that brave. I just don't know that they are. I just don't know that they are. I hope so, because I think Eclipso is just too big of a threat, and we've spent all these episodes seeing him tear down the team to have them come back in one episode. I just, even if they get outside help, if they've got Thunderbolt, if they've got the rest of the eyes, I think it's just too much to try to end him in one episode. They just need to push him back and have him come back. Let him be a reverse Flash for the Stargirl universe. So
yeah, no, I'm totally with you.
All right. This is a short little section, but Mike and Jakeem. So Mike is just, I love it. He's going all over town following the reports of huge food showing up as his guide. And, you know, at one of the scenes, he finds Jakeem's messenger bag and kind of figures out, okay, it's Jakeem that's got Thunderbolt. And when he does finally catch up with him, you know, we hear kind of his wishes, or like he's a hungry guy, and he's been asking Thunderbolt for food, and Thunderbolt's been going big time, and then we get this. Oh, I asked him for Chinese, and Mike's like, he's going to China. I'm like, what?
As soon as he said, I wish for Chinese food, I knew that was going to be the punchline.
Oh, yeah.
It's funny, but of course he flies to China because it's Thunderbolt and because it's. I mean, he's the genie. He's the Aladdin genie, and but it was funny.
Yeah, I did like his talk with Jakeem and realizing that he wasn't the best possessor of Thunderbolt, and I like that he loops Jakeem in, kind of enabling him to take up the reins and be the better possessor of Thunderbolt that he couldn't be. But yet they've got to do dishes first. We've got to save the world, but dishes first.
Well, I mean, you look at it from a parental point of view or an older sister point of view. They're just boys. They're young boys playing. And their imagination's going crazy.
Saving the world.
Yeah, I mean, Jakeem's a nerd. He plays video games and whatever else and superheroes. So saving the world, they're just being boys playing games. So no one's going to take that seriously. But weren't Mike and Jakeem friends before all of this? I know Jakeem was his backup paperboy, but weren't they kind of friends already?
I think they were more of like they knew each other because they were working the same job, and they were somewhat rivals because like Jakeem was like the one getting the rape done, and you know Mike was like the one that that was kind of okay, let Jakeem handle it. So I don't know. I wouldn't call them friends because it didn't seem like it. It just like they were acquaintances that knew each other.
Well, they're going to be friends now. I mean, Mike needs a friend anyway. He's got no friends in this town. So
yeah, and Jakeem needs one.
So
yeah.
The one thing I did like is Jakeem's 80s style bedroom. It was so cool.
Yeah.
Oh, that just made me think of being a kid again. I was like, oh, look at that. I love 80s stuff. It was so cool.
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, though, I just feel like there's no way that these two can be prepared in time to have Jakeem able to control Thunderbolt for the fight. The finale is next week. Jakeem doesn't have a clue what he's doing. He just sent Thunderbolt to China, so maybe Thunderbolt won't even get back in time. But still, like I've been saying, if you have to rhyme off a half an hour long wish to be that precise, you're useless in the fight. I don't know how Jakeem can possibly bring anything to this. Or why would the parents even allow Mike or Jakeem to be there, knowing how evil and deadly Eclipso can be? So
yeah, I don't know. And maybe they're going to use Thunderbolt to assist the other legends. The other legends, the other members of the JSA, to say like, let them see, what Eclipso is really doing, or I don't know, maybe assisting rather than a direct attack. So I don't know. Yeah. I don't know, but I don't see it going well either way. But
unless you say, Thunderbolt, I wish you to be as bright as the sun. Okay. Yeah. There you go. I don't know.
I don't know. Well, we've been kind of going around him all episode, so let's close out by talking about Eclipso.
All right.
Chuck tells us, regardless of what the plans Eclipso has, what he really wants is power. But he is weak because he has no host or diamond. I'm like, okay, just doesn't seem weak to me, but okay.
Yeah, that was interesting, but it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. He wanted out of the diamond to be free, but why if he's less powerful? I know we know he's been feeding off of fear and anger and guilt to get more powerful, so maybe he needs a lot of time to build up more strength, and once he does, he becomes more powerful outside of the diamond. But all that tells me is that it's the writer's way of sneaking in. We told you so. We gave you the hints that Eclipso is going to be able to be defeated by the kids because he's not as strong being outside of the diamond. That's I think that's their inside path to say, hey, we gave you the signs all along, so don't complain that the kids can win.
Yeah, but honestly, has Chuck seen him outside the diamond? How does, I mean, like, I don't know. Maybe he's misguided. I just don't know.
Unless he learned stuff. I mean, he was in the Shadowlands for 11 years. Maybe he learned some stuff while in there.
Yeah, I don't know. I hit on this point before. Chuck says he's vulnerable to the light wielded by those who carry it within themselves, Courtney and Jennie. And I'm like, okay.
Who both of them are not strong enough right now. So I find it kind of convenient that Cosmo is suddenly almost fully charged when the last couple episodes it's been dark with barely any energy left to fire one bolt off, and suddenly overnight seemingly, or a couple days past, he's just been sitting in a box and he's now fully charged, because they never answered that for us. They never showed us how he charges. Other than leaving it alone for a while. But it's been a day since last he was used? I don't get it. It's a little bit convenient that he's suddenly fully charged.
Yeah, I don't think he's fully charged, but I think he's charging way too quickly and too conveniently. I just don't get it, because we just don't know how he works. We don't know. Yeah. And I just don't. I don't see any reasoning to. He's just. I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense to me. So I don't know.
Yeah, and he's out of the box, flying around, playing with the dog. So he looked like he was feeling a lot better.
Yeah,
it's
I
weird.
Don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. They need to give us a little bit explanation. Like, get some. Maybe McNider can give them some history on Cosmo. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. So this entire season, Eclipso has divided the team. They're coming back together. In the last battle, Eclipso wanted Courtney to free him from the diamond. Now he wants to use the darkness within Courtney to possess her, and thereby he's going to nullify his strongest enemy. I think this is a good move by him.
Yeah.
I think that's, you realize that light's going to be your weakness. Well, let me take over the person who's in charge of that strongest light.
It's a sound tactic, and it's smart. He's cunning, and he has so far outwitted the kids. So, yeah, it is a good move by him. But what I want to know is, was that just a premonition Jade saw, and not what's actually going to happen? Is it just a dream? Like I said already, maybe Courtney's going to fight it off and not actually be taken over. We don't know. We don't know what was happening with Jade there.
Yeah. What I would like to see is like somewhat of a battle, but I would like to see her struggling maybe internally and remembering like her mom's words to her and remembering the friendship that she has and fighting against it. But your thoughts about her continuing into next season being possessed really have me thinking, and so I like that idea too. So I don't know.
And that all depends on if these writers are content to let a show storyline continue between seasons instead of deciding they have to wrap it all up because it's a new season and we need something new. So we're gonna have to see what they came up with.
Yeah. And I tell you, Eclipso's line there at the end, I will feed on your entire world and become your god. That was chilling. I was like, oh.
I'm so glad it was spoken by that creepy kid Milo, because that just made it way worse than if it was the Dark Elf cosplayer that said it.
Yeah, indeed. I totally agree. I think that it's best that, like, if we can get flashes of his true form, but I think the kid version is more is scarier.
Yeah, but when it comes down to the big fight, it might have to be his true form, because the kid is creepy doing all the talking, but I don't know if I could take the kid being in a fight. That won't. Yeah, because kids are definitely not good at physical acting when it comes to fighting and choreography. Yeah. So I think it's going to have to be the Dark Elf.
Yeah.
Awesome stuff, X-Force. Let's get into our favorite scenes.
Holy Twin Powers, activate!
All right, what are you starting us off with?
Oh, yeah, that's true. It's hard to remember which one of these was first.
Yeah, I think they're close together. I just forget which one was before the other.
All right, so I'm going to start us off. So I called this one Barbara's Love for Courtney. So let's take a listen.
When I was in the Shadowlands, I saw you.
You did?
And, you said some things that, I can't really unhear.
Whatever that was, it wasn't me. You know, it was...
Eclipso, I know, but... Was it hard? Raising me by yourself? I can handle the truth, I promise.
I mean, sure, yeah, it was hard at times being a single mom. But there's nothing I wouldn't have done for you.
But you could have had a career.
I have one.
You could have done more.
Yeah, there's a lot of things I could have done. None of them compare to what you have brought into my life. And that's why it scares me so badly seeing you in harm's way. But I know something has to be done about Eclipso. And I know you're the only one to do it.
I can't do it alone, Mom. I miss my best friend.
I know you do.
I really, really love this because we see how shaken Courtney is by her vision in the Shadowlands, and I'm so glad they addressed it and that Barbara really shared her love and her trust in her daughter. I really appreciate it that they, addressed it the episode after that she got out of the Shadowlands, and just seeing this love and care, and hopefully that will help them both moving forward.
Yep, and like I said earlier, it's just good to see that there's finally some relationship stuff between the two of them, because it's been all pat. Mm-hmm. So it was definitely a nice moment. Yeah. All right, well, I'm going to pull on some dark side because I loved when Pat goes all military justice on the old bad uncle. Here he is.
Rick's parents asked you to look out for him. But you did the opposite. Didn't you? You actually got a talent. You know that? You really do. It's for finding people that are weaker than you are. Taking advantage of them. Whether it's a kid, some waitress, or your own nephew. You're a bad guy. And whenever I run into somebody like you, when I was growing up, back in the army, or today, makes me remember something about myself. I got some bad in me, too.
It's the music. I mean, that is right out of those thriller movies that you watch where there's a person like this that is wanting to exact revenge or whatever. Like right out of the deepest, darkest thrillers. It's beautiful, beautifully played, and it's awesome. I love watching Pat turn a bit like that.
Oh yeah, I mean it was powerful. It really was.
Yeah, and like I still believe Rick's uncle. I'm 100% thinking he deserved what he got anyway. He has been an ass, abused Rick, treated him like crap, did not raise him properly, and it's like Pat said, your sister trusted you to take care of him, and you've done the exact opposite. So I think the fact that he's banged up, I'm quite happy to see him banged up. That's the least of payback that is owed to him. I'm sorry. It's true.
Yeah, indeed.
If you'd like to support our podcast, you can do so at our Patreon page at www.patreon.com/tomorrowslegends.
Don't keep it to yourself now. Come on, baby, talk to us. It's feedback. Yeah.
And before we read the first feedback, actually, for our Patreon supporters, we're on our next T-shirt company. We got denied again, but I found a Canadian one, and I put the order through, and they sent me the receipt and saying, yep, all good, going through, and it's been 5 days, and I have not heard back from them, so hopefully, fingers crossed. Maybe because we were trying U.S. T-shirt sites that they're a little more stringy about logos. Maybe the Canadian one doesn't care so much, so we'll see.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah. First up is Ken from Chicago via Twitter.
Yes, indeed. So Ken broke it down to the good, the bad, and the what? So he says the good, Eclipso's plan, not forgetting the second spot of shade on the map. The bad, police letting Rick go. Domestic disturbance laws don't often need the victim to bring charges if there's other evidence, like someone's broken, body. And that's a good point. But, Earth 2, maybe it's different. I don't know.
That's true.
And his section, the what? So the Thunderbolt just made giant burgers and other junk food appear, but personally left to get Chinese food? And then he said, Did Jakeem's sister remind you of Lucas's sister from Stranger Things? And I'm like, yeah, Lucas's little sister. And indeed, she did. I didn't think about it till you said that, but then what you said that, I'm like, yep.
Fun stuff. Good to hear from you there, Ken from Chicago. Next up is Comic Geek Kev. Hey, legendary Cosmic Crew. Ooh, he's combining our names. Another good episode. Not as good as the last one, in my opinion, but honestly, that may be hard to beat. It was nice to have a lighter opening scene after the heaviness of last week, and good use of that song as well. It was fun with Because it started with a creepy vibe, and then it just went all silly with the dog. So it was kind of fun. Strong writing and performances overall. There was some good interactions with the various characters, Courtney and Yolanda, Mike and Jakeem, Beth and Chuck, Pat and Uncle Matt. We better find out exactly what happened in that room to make Matt change his mind. Maybe Pat has some dirt on Matt? Drawing the blinds and locking the door was very dramatic, but I don't think Pat physically hurt him or anything like that. Maybe he told Matt about our man. But that doesn't seem likely given that Matt is a bad guy, even according to Pat. I don't think Pat told him anything. I think Pat just put the fear of God into him in that moment. Just by talking about being in the military and blah, blah, blah. That guy, I mean, the guy's a bully, and what are bullies? They're just cowards because they always pick on people smaller and weaker than they are. They're actually truly cowards. So when you actually stand up to them and show them a little bit of, darkness, they're going to completely cave. And I think that's all it took.
I agree.
No action scenes this week, but I'm good with that. The story moved forward and had some great serious and comedic moments. Not much in the way of special effects. Thunderbolt takes hours to go to China and back, but maybe they had to save that budget for next week. Glad to see they are apparently staying with McNider being blind, but did they explain that? I mean, I guess they showed it. I just wonder if people who are unfamiliar with the character would pick up on the situation. Also, I guess we are assuming the neighborhood is blind because the Dugan Whitmores were out in broad daylight walking into their house with Dr. Midnight in full costume.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a lot of cosplaying going on in that town. I liked how Courtney pushed away from her mom in front of Sydney. I guess it could just be a teenager who doesn't want to show apparent affection in front of others, but I took it as Courtney not wanting to make Cindy feel bad about her own mother-daughter situation. And then it seemed like Cindy sort of took to Barbara, even showing her some respect. Although Barbara didn't seem to buy it, but maybe I'm looking too deep there. No, I think you're onto something there. I think there was a little bit of both on Courtney's part. Not wanting to be embarrassed by being all affectionate, but also trying to save, Cindy some feelings there. I mean, Courtney is compassionate that way. And there's a hint of Cindy probably attaching to Barbara a little bit. It's just going to take a while for Barbara to warm up to her, I think. But, yeah. Next week is the last episode, right? Yes, it is, sir. If so, there better be a cliffhanger. No way this can be satisfactorily wrapped up in one episode. After seeing Jade's dream, I would guess we might see a possessed Stargirl take down most of the team, and whoever is left has to regroup in Season 3. And will they face the same decision as the previous team, having to kill the host? Spoiler, I'm going to guess they will find another way. I don't get what happened with Jade and the shadow goo. Is it allowing her to see the future? What Eclipso is planning? Is it taking her over? I don't think it's the last one. I think her light should protect her. I'm just guessing based on the way they talk about the light and the darkness. I'm looking forward to next week and hoping it's a cliffhanger, which is not something I'm usually looking for, but in this case, I'll make an exception. If they wrap it up in one episode, it's going to be less than great. And of course, Milo kills it as young Bruce / Eclipso. Give that kid an Emmy. I'm giving this one 9 out of 10 Creepy Kid Emmy Awards. Till next time, crew, Cosmic Geek Kev. Fully on board with all your last few remarks there. Definitely.
Indeed. Next up, we've got an email from Dad L. Hello, Cosmic Crew. The penultimate Season 2 episode was deep in character moments and set up for the finale. Like Flash, I'm a little concerned that the finale will be rushed. That being said, I did enjoy all the character interactions. I'm hoping we see some significant growth from Beth now that she has the real Chuck to guide her. I also enjoyed the scene between Yolanda and Cindy. You could feel Yolanda's anger. I think she will get a new Wildcat suit at some point to show that she is moving beyond the past, including Ted Grant's past. I hope Rick also gets a suit upgrade. Indeed.
Well, he's going to work on it. That's what I'm saying. I betcha.
Pat has a dark side? I never saw that coming. I'm thinking that was just a scare tactic, and Pat really didn't have to go very far. But I didn't know that he had it in him to bluff that kind of bad.
Yeah, way to go, Pat.
Courtney is going to be put to the test next week. I think she will embrace the darkness for a brief time, and the friend she has made will pull her back. We need to see some real stakes in the finale.
Yep.
My rating is 9 dog trainers for Buddy. Dad L, last father of Krypton.
Next up is, guess what? A voicemail from Harley, our very own Harley.
Hello there, Cosmic Crew. This is Harley calling in to leave her thoughts. Leave my thoughts. That feels weird talking in the third person. Anyways, I am leaving my thoughts on Stargirl because I'm caught up just in time for the finale. And I just wanted to say that I've really enjoyed this entire season. I thought it was incredibly well done. I know it was a little slower, particularly in the middle, but I actually really liked that. I like that they took the time to flesh out the characters, and they took the time to kind of flesh out how evil and how manipulative and how in everyone's heads Eclipso is. And so I'm really looking forward to see how they end up resolving this next week. So anyways, I just wanted to quickly send my thoughts in. Oh, and I know you all have been hating the look of adult Eclipso, and I agree, the kid is doing a absolutely phenomenal job. But I don't really mind what they've done with Eclipso. I didn't think it was all that bad, personally. But that's just me. Anyways, I'll talk to you guys on Legends, and I'll try to get in my finale feedback next week. Talk to you soon. I'm out.
Yay. Good to have her part of the show. Yeah. Glad she's caught up.
Yeah.
Maybe we can get her on for the finale. We'll have to see.
We'll see.
We will see. Next up is Perry White.
Hey, Flash and X-Force 11 and the rest of our cosmic crew. Perry White here with feedback for Stargirl episode 12, or as I like to call it, The Rise of Stargirl? Question mark. First, let me just go ahead and say, I don't know that I have necessarily a rating for the episode, but I enjoyed it well enough. One of the things that concerns me, though, is that it seems to be putting things sort of in place for a nice, convenient finale, right? I mean, obviously, we had a team that was fractured, we had a team that was broken and sort of out of pocket, and now things have been put in place that are putting our heroes on a collision course with Eclipso. It just seems a little bit convenient. I know probably if there were an extra episode or two, maybe the resolutions, the solutions, and the things that have been put in place, like Rick getting out of jail, obviously Courtney getting out of the Shadowlands in the previous episode, and things of that nature, might have felt a bit organic, but I'm probably like Martin and being a little bit concerned that things are just sort of falling into place so quickly and easily and conveniently that we may have a finale that runs the risk of having the same issues that the season 1 finale had. I'm just wondering if this show has sort of the guts to do something interesting, dynamic, and basically game-changing the way that Superman and Lois did in its season 1. I mean, there were so many things that show threw in that were incredible plot twists, and it would be incredible if this finale took note of some of those things and did some of them as well. Obviously, I don't know if everyone obviously always looks at the promos for the next episode, but obviously we have the tease, quote unquote, of Dark Stargirl in the next episode. And obviously we had that, if you're familiar with the Rise of Skywalker and you saw the trailers for that, we had the tease of Dark Ray, and that basically turned out to be nothing but, it's not called a MacGuffin, but essentially it was a red herring. And that lasted all of 5 seconds. It was sort of like an illusion, dream sequence, whatever you want to call it. And I get the sinking suspicion that whatever dark Stargirl turns out to be, it'll probably be something that lasts for a little bit of time. Someone is able to give her some sort of speech about love or heroism and sort of knock her out of it. And then she'll be good again. But it would be incredibly interesting if the show had sort of the guts to, say, you know what, whatever it was that turned Courtney Whitmore into this darker version of herself, you know what, it's not just easy to flip the switch and bring her back to the good side. We're going to sit with this a little bit and see where it goes. It would be incredible if the show had that kind of daring. I guess we'll see. The other thing that has sort of been a question mark for me all season has, interestingly enough, been the antagonist this season. We, to a great degree, or at least to some degree, we know who Eclipso is, and we obviously know where Eclipso is. If you're familiar with Infinity War, you'll pretty much remember that who is Gamora, where is Gamora, but in my Drax the Destroyer voice, I don't know that we found out why is Eclipso. Essentially, all we know about him is that he is evil. We don't know anything about his motivations. We don't know anything really about his backstory. And at this point, we don't know much of anything about his endgame. We just know he's here. We don't know why he's in Blue Valley. We don't know ultimately what he wants to do. I honestly, I just have to say that is a failure of the writers to have us approaching the season finale, and we don't know much more about the motivations or the machinations of our antagonist than we really knew in episode 1 or episode 2. And it just I don't know what to say. It's just sort of strange, and I'm sort of at a loss for words as to how that could possibly be that we are approaching our season finale and we don't know much of anything about what drives our antagonist and what his end game is or anything. And
that's a good point, man.
Obviously, finding all of that out in the final episode would again just sort of be convenience and sort of just dropping everything into one episode. And I don't know or especially feel that is a great way to tell a story. Oh well. I say all that, and probably people are going to feel like I really didn't appreciate this episode or I haven't really appreciated the season, and that would be incorrect. I've thoroughly enjoyed the season. I've liked some of the horror notes that they've picked up on this show and have run with. In this episode, I particularly liked the antagonism between Cindy and Yolanda. I think their dynamic is, in a lot of ways, much more interesting than the dynamic is between Cindy and Courtney. I just feel like their back and forth is more surface level than anything, but the dynamic and antagonism between Cindy and Yolanda is deeper. It's personal, and you can feel it when those two characters are on screen together. So I really like watching those two together. And of course, I absolutely love the fact that Beth had an opportunity to talk with and hang out with Dr. McNider. I think they have incredible chemistry together. Strangely enough, I almost felt like when Dr. McNider was talking about the light that our heroes are going to need to beat Eclipso, I was like, he needs to be having that conversation with Courtney, because it looks like she's taking a turn toward the dark side, but whatever. Like I said, all in all, I had a pretty good idea of what this episode needed to do. It needed to put people in its place, heading toward the finale. We do still have a number of mysteries out there, and my hope is that the season finale doesn't happen and then essentially we just get a reset. There needs to be some significant ramifications. I don't necessarily know that we need a cliffhanger, but I don't think that everything needs to be resolved in the finale. And speaking of mysteries, I think one of the bigger mysteries, obviously, is what's going on with Jade. She obviously seems to be impacted, or at least her ring seems to be impacted or affected by whatever dark energy that is, that came from the Shadowlands, obviously. So it'll be interesting to see what sort of effect and impact that has. And my absolutely favorite and brightest spot about the episode was the moment that Barbara had. I believe she was in the kitchen and she seemed to have this chill come over her, and there was a vision, and I truly have to believe that that was the Shade still alive in some sort of corporeal form or what have you. So it seems like his character is not all lost. It's sort of what I speculated in the last episode, and it's just I'm hopeful, because obviously he's such a dynamic and interesting character, and if the show ultimately totally kills him off, I think that would be an incredible mistake. Anyway, I am looking forward to hearing what other folks have to say, and I am incredibly apprehensive and excited at the same time about going into the finale. This has been Perry White making another deadline. This feedback was a little bit longer because my voice is sounding a little bit better. And now, strangely enough, I'm about to go watch the 100th episode of Legends of Tomorrow, because here it is Thursday morning and I have yet to watch it, but I'm so incredibly looking forward to it. Anyway, talk to you guys later. I'm out.
Yeah, Perry.
Good stuff.
Good thoughts. I think the one thing I really want to hone in is this idea about Eclipso. We, as viewers, we don't really know anything about him. What's he after? What's his motive? Why is this guy something to worry about other than he wants darkness around? Like, they just haven't given us a lot about that. He's got a really good point there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree, and I think it would would give more depth and more, feeling and just dread if we knew that. So,
yeah, exactly. Awesome stuff. Next up is Dreamweaver.
Hello, Cosmic Crew. Dreamweaver here with feedback for Stargirl Season 2, Episode 12. And I hate to say it, but this was a disappointing episode. I'm only giving it 7 Rings of Power out of 10. I liked it better the second watch, but it still felt wrongly placed or paced. This one just felt like a complete setup for the finale and nothing else. Yeah, there were character moments here that were needed, especially with getting Yolanda back to the team and Beth and Dr. McKnight together, but I felt no sense of danger or urgency here except for maybe the last 5 minutes with Jennie and her future nightmare she was getting from the ring. The opening with Buddy and the staff, you could argue it was cute, but that was a weird, disjointed way to open up the episode. And the staff is just better all of a sudden, without anything big happening, since that's been a whole deal this whole season. The Thunderbolt stuff is not working for me either. It feels so out of place right now. And Mike just trying to argue it back from Jakeem. Has he learned nothing? And I know we didn't see anything Pat did with Rick's uncle after he closed the blinds, but what could Pat possibly do to make him get Rick released? Bad Pat? We haven't seen him crack all season, even with Eclipso's influence. And this is what makes Pat do something so against who he is? There are still a few hints that Shade isn't truly gone. The moment in the kitchen with Barbara, she can definitely sense something. He may not have been at the second location, and that was just a Shadowland energy residue, but I don't think he's gone for good. And the blob that gets into Jennie's ring. You can see it making her sick. Eclipso is corrupting all the light in the show, it seems. The ring, the staff, but it also gave Jennie a look into the future, so it seems, a connection to Eclipso. He could see her, but she could see him as well. And she could see Eclipso's plan, and he knows she can see it. So I wonder if that's part of his plan. Cindy being on the JSA side for now is a cool dynamic, and her just showing up in Yolanda's room pretty much forcing her hand back into the fight with her reverse psychology, was kind of interesting to see. But I was hoping for more of a completed arc for Yolanda. I guess we still have one more episode to see, and I know for a fact that grief and guilt is not an easy or rounded resolution in real life. But this is TV, and character arcs should have a resolution that we can see, while also serving as a launching point for more exploration. She's been missing for a handful of episodes, so we haven't been able to see any wrestling or growth or anything on her part, so I guess it makes sense to not see any growth in here now. But I guess I really wanted to see some turnaround, some earned moments of choosing to face the things she's been dealing with and rising above it. But with what Beth said, the fight in the cafeteria was only a week ago, so episodes 7 through 11 have taken place in the time span of only a week. 5 to 6 days is not enough time to work through trauma. But in terms of a show timeline, that's mid-season to the finale. There should be an arc in there for a character. Rick is looking at his father's notes, trying to create a new hourglass. I did call that one if he does end up making a new one. Beth having Dr. McNider to look up to and learn from was charming. She was so excited to meet him in the flesh and work together. Charles being here in the real world again should hopefully be a fun point moving forward. And they better not kill him next episode. Otherwise, that would be the most useless thing. He needs to help take Eclipso down for his daughter's sake. And I hope they don't kill Cindy either. She's too perfect of a counterpart to Courtney as both a superhero and a teenager. Well, we do see more of Eclipso's endgame here, and how it seems he's been preparing Courtney this whole time to take over her, and corrupt the staff as well. There's been moments throughout the season hinting at this, him using the staff to break out of the diamond, him putting her into the Shadowlands to see her fears, instead of killing her, and letting her get through the right door in the Shadowlands to get Cindy to escape, but only after he gets Courtney to admit she hates him. Felt like he wanted that to happen and guided her back to Cindy. Seems I may have been onto something too when I theorized Eclipso might still get a host, and they've shown us only one way to deal with Eclipso and a host. So I am looking forward to what happens in the finale, but I don't think this served well as a penultimate ramp up into it. There still feels like there's too many things from this season to jam into this final episode, so my fingers are crossed, but I'm afraid it might go like last season. And I'm hoping Cameron is in the finale and doesn't get shunted like last season. I'd love to see him join the fight last minute. Alright, that's all my thoughts for now. Until next time, your friend Dreamweaver.
Yeah, it's funny. She makes some amazing points about the episode, but she didn't like it that much, where we loved it and still agree with all of her points. So it's kind of interesting. But it's funny. I think she should give Perry White a call and talk to him, because she brought up a lot of good points about what Eclipso's after. And it makes sense. So
yeah, and I love the point, we've just kind of dealt with Cameron once or twice this season, but like, is he going to play a role in the finale? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe he's one of the ones Cindy calls. I don't know. Even though he doesn't like her. So
one thing that we talked about in the discussion thread was, she was talking about Cindy being there, and someone put in the thread that Cindy had gone to the Batman school of disappearing, because she's talking and then she's immediately gone, and I was like, oh yeah, that was cool.
That was interesting, because she had Courtney up against the closet doors, and the camera during the entire time you can see the window and the curtains blowing in the window. The camera never loses that as the backdrop. So where did Cindy go? She came in the window, but she definitely didn't go out the window, because when she does her Batman disappearing act, she didn't go through the window, because the window was in frame the entire time. So I was like,
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, good thoughts all around, everybody.
Yes, indeed.
And it sounds like I hope I didn't put that seed in everybody's brain that our finale is going to be a rushed disappointment. We're all worried about that, because everybody's on the same page. Everyone's thinking, I hope this doesn't happen. So, man alive, I guess we just got to wait and see. But I don't want to have a disappointing end like the first season. I really don't, because the first season was beautiful. All the first however many episodes there were, right up to the end, was amazing.
Yeah.
And then they dropped the ball big time. So we'll see. All right, guys. Well, if you want to get in your thoughts for the finale, just listen to this.
If you would like to be a part of the show, you can send in your feedback to tomorrowslegendspodcast@gmail.com. You can also reach us on Twitter at Tomorrow's Legends. We'd love you to join our Facebook page at facebook.com/groups/Tomorrow's Legends and become part of the community.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else I can say about the finale. That's my hopes. Don't rush it. Don't come up with a happy ending, guys, because it's really weird to say. We are all hoping for darkness and turmoil to take over and win this season.
Yeah, indeed. You know, it was kind of cool. I put in our Facebook group kind of a day in the life that Beck had put up on TikTok, and that was kind of fun getting to see her, you know, get into makeup and do some stunt work and that kind of stuff. So they're busy at work doing season 3, so that's exciting.
Cool. I haven't watched that yet. I saw it in there. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
Cool stuff. And then, yeah, I mean, we got the Legends 100th episode extravaganza special to talk about tomorrow. It sounds like a lot of our fans have already watched it. I know we have, and we had fun with it. So
yeah,
I can't wait to talk about that. So that is tomorrow, guys. Get in your thoughts about that. If you haven't watched it yet, watch it, and then get your thoughts in.
Indeed.
That's all we got for you guys tonight. We'll be back in your ears tomorrow night. This is The Flash, signing off.
This is X-Force 11, so say we all.
Tomorrow's Legends is not affiliated with CBS, Warner Brothers, or the CW. We're a fan-made podcast for entertainment purposes only and are part of the Cybercast Network.